I want to ask you guys, as far as we've seen all these divisive riots from every single walk of life for everything. They're supporting all these. People call it woke movements that oftentimes become very violent in nature and don't seem to be organic in nature. Are y'all familiar with the color revolutions that have been used to destabilize other countries, and how do you think that relates to the movements that we're seeing creating chaos and in America as well?
Yeah, well, we have the anarchist, obviously, Antifa. We have these special interest groups, and it just happened the other day where you have a peaceful protest, protesting a school board. All of a sudden, the school board protest kind of starts to go away. It was peaceful, right? Just parents standing up for their children. Then all of a sudden, these anarchists come in and they co-opt that peaceful protest, and it becomes violent. And you saw that in cities all throughout the nation, when George Floyd died, and when Michael Brown died. And you see this, it's almost as if they're pre-positioned, right? And when I say that, again, I'm going to say I'm going to say they're already financed, they're being blessed in. This is part of a movement to divide America. When you divide us, when you divide the people, we become our weakest and we become the most vulnerable. And one of the things I wanted to add to, in terms of the last question with defunding the police and what's happening in Washington State recently, this attorney general and this governor put forth a ban on what they deemed as assault weapons. And so they create the problem of lawlessness. They perpetuate it through their broken policies. And then they mitigate our opportunities to protect and defend ourselves and our families. This is the danger that we're seeing out of this Marxist movement that starts in the far left, and it permeates across all domains. And now it's going into all different, again, minority groups or advocacy groups, and it's intentional. This is not by accident. And when you take away the ability for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves while allowing this lawlessness, that's a severe danger, and it's a violation of our constitutional rights. So there's a lot to this, and I think it's all very intertwined, if you will, right? This is not by accident. It is by I would say definition, and it is planned, and now it's being permeated throughout the nation.
I think we've really seen a professionalization of of the rioters here in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, Rose City Antifa in Portland. I think that's one of the original actual Antifa card carrying Antifa groups, and then Seattle is right behind them, and they share a lot of the same personalities. And really, when you let them go unchecked for as long as we did in 2020, these guys got a lot of reps in at being able to rile up a crowd, how to provoke the police, how to get a response from the police. And I think they've gotten so good at getting responses from the police officers that in many cases the police have just said, look, if we arrest these guys, the Soros prosecutors are going to let them out anyways, so we can go out there and get bricks thrown in our face, or you know what, we can just let them burn. And that's really what happened, really, from 2020 on, and it was going on up until 2020. The media just basically stopped covering it sometime in mid 21, and they're poised to make all this happen again, and they really benefit from all these different left-leaning progressive programs, like basically camping and street camping and homelessness that's overrunning most of the major urban hubs on the West Coast, and it's perfectly legal. But then there's also all these different some government affiliated, some non-government affiliated charity organizations that provide services to these so-called homeless people. Now, most of these homeless folks, they are not just people who fell on tough times. These people have chosen this lifestyle. Yeah, there's a lot of drug addicts and some folks who need mental care health, but there's also a lot of people who are basically professional drifters, and they are put into employment by Antifa, BLM, these other different groups to become essentially professional rioters. And they spread throughout the country. The recent riots that took place down in Atlanta, you saw quite a few people from Portland and Seattle that were Antifa members that got arrested down there. Luckily, Atlanta and down there in Georgia, they weren't playing around. They actually arrested the guys, and hopefully they're going to get prosecuted down there. But yeah, I mean, it is not random. These things just don't pop up all of a sudden. Maybe the first couple were kind of spontaneous, but it's a cause and effects type of thing. And really, for anybody who thinks I'm lying, come on out to the Pacific Northwest, and we can give you quite the tour between Portland and Seattle.
Absolutely.
I hope people take y'all up on that. I really hope they do. In that regards, I want to ask you, gentlemen, something I've noticed this entire time. You mentioned like basically a media blackout, right? And what we've seen in our country of this massive